This week, our attention will focus on the northwest village of Croston, where we will talk to residents, businesses and action groups to understand their road to recovery and what their future holds after their record-breaking floods on Boxing Day 2015. John Twin, a Croston resident, veteran of 3 floods and co-founder of the Lower Yarrow Flood Action Group, tells us just how bad the day was.
I think it's a combination of lots of things. I think the amount of water that was actually coming down on the hills, filling the rivers very quickly, just couldn't take any more water. So it breached in various places above Croston, and then once it did that, it came down so rapidly. And within less than an hour, it was sort of 2.5 feet flowing down the street. So there's no way you could get the message any faster than that. People were aware it was coming. We were trying to get everything out, but it came so quick.
Residents throughout the village experienced the floods in a number of different ways. Mark Cowley moved to Croston in 2012 and is one of 350 affected residents.
It started with a text from the Environment Agency and then followed up going outside and having a look at the Yarrow and meeting up with some of the guys from the Lower Yarrow Flood Action Group and finding out whether the alert was actually for real or not. We quickly realised it was for real, sadly, and then the next 12 hours were really a bit of a blur, but it involved a lot of moving of furniture and just trying to get as much as we could do to safety as we watched the water grow and get higher and higher. It became pretty obvious that it was going to be a lot worse than previous times. This time was no comparison because our front room was 4.5 feet underwater, and it got to the point where you just couldn't save everything. But there was a lot of people around, mainly watching where the river went and what went on, and then it got to a certain point once we lost the power about 7 p.m. at night that it was just a question of sitting there and watching what happened and listening to the local radio to try and find out what could happen.
This time, more homes were affected than ever before. Steve and Elaine Swifts live on Drinkhouse Road, an area where property has never previously been flooded.
When I woke up, I went downstairs and I could see water dripping on top of the fire from the chimney breast, and I thought that only happens when we've had excessive heavy rain, and it had rained heavily the day before, so I thought we might be in trouble here. Looked outside and I could see the water creeping up the road early in the morning.
Well, we did have a flood alert at 8 o'clock from the Environment Agency, so
yeah, that's true.
We were a bit, but it might not happen to us because it's never happened before. So
we honestly thought,
we were a bit laid back about it. We were a bit laid back about it because we thought, well, it's never happened before. It won't happen this time. It'll stop before it gets to us. So
yeah, but of course it never did.
It came in. It started to come in really quickly underneath the skirting boards. It didn't come in through the doors, did it?
Well, it sort of came in from everywhere. Bled through the floors, through the skirting boards, and then it came through the doors.
I think the first time we saw it was in the hall. I saw it, the water coming in.
Yeah, like an amoeba. But once it was in, it was just rapid.
Just quick, really quickly, just.
Yeah, it reached about 9 inches over a short period, probably an hour and a half.
We did stand outside with our neighbour watching it creep up a lamppost.
And it just kept going up and up and up.
And quickly as well, so it was a bit.
And you think, oh dear.
For many residents, this was another reoccurrence of the 1987 and 2012 floods. Karen Yates' property backs onto the river and she was unaware of the events in the northwest.
Well, I was away because it was Christmas time. I'd gone to my sister's in Dorset, so I was like 300 miles away. I had a phone call at 8 o'clock in the morning off the Environment Agency, so I then got on the telephone to ring some of my friends in Croston to see what was happening, and they said that yes, there was going to be a flood, and so I decided I'd better set off and come back really. I wanted to come and see what was happening with my house. The first thing I did was park my car at my friend's house, which was okay, and put my wellies on and waded up, but it came over the top of my wellies as I was coming outside the house. So I knew, and it was really fast flowing as well. It was surprising, it was like a big river. Surprising how fast it was flowing. I had a look over the bridge to see what the river was like and the road. You know, how much water is there going to be? Because I have been flooded once before in 1987, and I had about 8 inches then, and you know, was it going to be the same? But unfortunately it was worse.
Town Road and the Village Green were the worst affected areas in Croston. They also have the majority of pubs, cafes and restaurants eager to get back to business. John Lilly is the landlord of the Wheatsheaf, located, like many businesses, at the heart of the village.
You know, you do everything that you can. You fill sandbags up and you put, bin liners over, your air bricks, and you do the things. But really, when you're going to go sort of like three foot underwater, it's just ruthless. The water, it either just goes through or it goes around. Whatever you put up. To be honest, there's nothing really that you can do when it's to the extent that we did get flooded. So there's a big sense of helplessness, and you can just see everybody around you. Everyone's upset, everybody's gutted, and especially on the time of the year, it being Boxing Day. It closed our business for 5 days really until New Year's Eve. That should have been a very busy time of the year for us, which would have given us the opportunity to get money behind us for when trade massively drops during the winter months. And we didn't have that privilege this year, unfortunately. We've had to have all new wooden flooring, new carpets are getting fitted later this week, all new kitchen equipment. Basically gutted. We've had to chip back and replaster a lot of the walls. It's hit us quite hard, to be fair.
As Vice Chairman of the Parish Council, Mark Cowley was aware of the immediate implications on the community.
So the day after Boxing Day, we were cleaning up and suddenly realised that we hadn't had anything to eat, and we heard that the sports club were doing food. So we went down and I bumped into a guy called Stuart Laverick, who knows everybody in the village, and I run Croston News as the social media for the village. So basically we brought social media and volunteers together. We basically tried to just be there as a supporting function and to help people out. So we basically spent 7 days sat in the sports club, just 12 hours a day trying to help people the best way we could. We had donations far and wide from using the social media. It caught on, and people from as far down as Cornwall came up and donated packages. We had donations from Kendal. The amazing support that people offered the village was incredible. And then we started getting donations, and we suddenly thought, right, okay, let's see where this goes. And more people wanted to give money and help people out. From that, the idea of opening up Croston Flood Relief as a charity was born. We've had everything from a brass band concert at the school. We've had the biggest thing, which was Croston Fest, which is where Stuart managed to pull off a small miracle, to be fair, and in 2 months managed to arrange 50 bands to play for 3 days across Croston. And we had a tent on the village green, we sold wristbands, and we took donations in, and at the end of the weekend we'd raised just short of £15,000. To be fair, it's all been about community spirit, and it's given that faith back in that people still can pull together in a crisis. We've had support from, as I said, all across the country, but locally, the WI have got together in so many of their locations. The Rotary Club, the Round Table, all these groups have got together to help the village out. People from far and wide wanted to come together and help out. I'd say Croston Fest was just accumulation of all of that. And the other thing, the benefit from, was the fact it gave back to the businesses. So all the pubs and the restaurants managed to get some more business, and they had the busiest nights they'd ever had, out doing Croston Coffee Day, which is infamous for being one of the busiest days of the year. And people wanted to do it again, and we asked a lot of the bands that were donating their time for free whether they'd be prepared to do it again next year, and the results back from them were positive. Hopefully we won't have to do it for the Flood Relief Fund next year, and we can do it for Croston as a community.
So 3 months after the floods, how are residents coping with getting back to normal?
The insurance company have been really good, and in particular the assessors. They came out fairly quickly, and I think we've been very fair, and they've been fair, and the claims going through very nicely. So.
And the man who came to do the testing of the walls from Cambond, he agreed with us that we didn't need to go ripping everything about. Just leave it, it will dry out.
Yeah, there are a few test holes around the house where he's measured the moisture content, and to quote him, he says, "This house is drier than his."
And he's never been flooded, so.
Unlike Stephen Elaine, numbers of residents are still suffering.
I would say I've not had the best experience because the communication between the insurance company and me hasn't been very good. Other people have been getting phone calls every week. Are you okay? Is it going okay? I've had 2 right at the very beginning, and then nothing else. They weren't communicating between the building surveyor and the loss adjuster, so again I'm having to provide them with telephone numbers. So I would say that really, again, their excuses, there are so many people, but it's my property and I'm only one person, so I'm only interested in me, not in 10,000 other people who may have been flooded. So yes, you can understand why it drags, but on the other hand, it is a very slow process, and it is a bit annoying, really. They told me that really I would have to move out. I didn't get an awful lot of choice. I've only got a small cottage, and I couldn't really live upstairs. They've taken the kitchen out, so I've had to have a rental property, and I've taken that for 6 months, and I think it's going to be the 6 months. They haven't started refurbishing. I'm dry now, and I've been waiting for the builders to get in touch with me, which they have done this week. So hopefully they're starting this week to try to renovate.
So what are the causes and wider implications of the seemingly reoccurring events throughout the country?
I consider that the excessive development that's gone on has certainly contributed to the amount of times that the river is at flood level, without necessarily flooding, but certainly up to flood level where there's a potential flood. And that's caused by the runoff water from roads and garage roofs and house roofs and pavements, coupled with global warming and climate change making the water table full. So water that used to take about 2 days to get into a river, now it's in the river in a couple of hours.
Just 2 miles outside of Croston, the £6 million flood risk management project is taking shape. Audra Waite from the Environment Agency gives us an insight into the new flood defence system.
So what we've done, and what we're in the process of doing now, is building a large embankment with a structure in the middle of it that the river runs through. And there are 2 penstocks in that structure that can be completely closed, and so it forms a complete dam. The embankment, the whole thing is a dam, and that will hold back 1.5 million cubic metres of water. Even if it did become overtopped, which is not very likely, at least it will be limiting that amount of water that does get down to Croston.
After Storm Desmond, Eva and Frank, what does the future hold for communities throughout the country? While Croston will have its own flood defence system, other communities are not so fortunate. The government are now doing resilience and modelling reviews based on 30% more rainfall. So we can only wonder how the need for more housing, climate change and the need to future-proof and protect our homes will affect us all in the future.